Hello there. It's Tuesday night, June 8th, and I'm trying to see if I am coming in on Facebook, and I don't see anybody clicking on, and oh, good. There's somebody coming on. Good, good, good. I had this trouble last time with my iPad, so I'm on my phone, and I want to know if you can hear me. Hey, Robin Bachman, Shirley, I know here. Good. I'm glad to know you're there. I'm being out here in the boonies in ranch land, I sometimes get connection issues, and I'm getting ready. I'm thinking, oh, good. Thank you for saying that's loud and clear. Hello, Danielle Moore. I want to give a little update on how I'm doing, and I would like to pray and get started, and then I will start teaching you on what to do about what I think is the major cause of diseases today. Father, I pray you'd bless our video. I ask God you'd keep my mind focused, and if I go off track, I pray you'd get me back on track. I pray you'd keep me focused. Lord, I ask that you just bless these truths, all the studying that I've done, and this material that I'm going to give out. I ask, Lord, that you'd bless it, and I thank you for all the different sisters and brothers in Christ who've been listening and that have allowed me to help them. I pray, Lord, you'd bless us, bless me. I pray that you'd bless my listeners. Father, you do want us to take care of our temple, and I ask, God, that you'd help us too. Pray that you'd be with us, give us wisdom, and give me the right words. Amen. The title of this is Parasites, Mold and Fungus, Causes of Disease, and I'm going to give you the 5 steps for a parasite cleanse. I will be posting later some of the products. And by the way, I don't make any money on any of these products. I don't have time to call these companies and ask them for a deal. And I just found out there's a really cool product called Scram, like Scram, get out of me, parasites. And there's quite a few things out there you can take. And probably if you cleanse, you need to cleanse twice a year, and you're going to be taking different things because parasites become immune to the herbs. So 18 months ago, I found out through a biomeridian scan that I had parasites, Lyme, and fungus in my body. Fungus comes because now mold can come if you're exposed to mold in a home or through water damage or things like that. There could be mold. And then fungus comes from candida fungus, which is an overgrowth due to too many antibiotics, which happened to me before I was 45. And Lyme is from a tick. It's a parasite that, and by the way, Lyme, the Lyme ticks can inject parasites and Lyme bacteria, which is Burgdorferi, Bartonella and Burgdorferi. Those bacterias and parasites can be injected with one bite. And so I began studying very intensely, not knowing how common it is for us to have parasites. I had no idea. I did know about parasites and missionaries, but I hadn't studied it. And I did know that, an infectious disease doctor would help some of the missionaries. But even my friend that was a missionary over in New Guinea, he had, hi, Jackie Ruckle, and my friend from Missouri. I did not, even the Mayo Clinic doctors did not know what to do with malaria in a missionary from New Guinea. Here in America, parasites are just not dealt with much. If you do have a doctor that recognizes them or tries to test you, it's amazing. They really don't know what to test for. It's not their fault. It's just not something they've been trained in. And so I firmly believe almost all chronic disease is caused by one of the 5 invaders. I'm going to actually add to 6. And by the way, next week, I'm going to talk about, hey, Teresa Ross. Next week, I'm going to talk about radiation, what our phones are doing to us and what you can do about it. There is something you can do. 5 invaders: bacteria, virus, parasites, fungus, mold, and number 6 is radiation, or if you want to call it EMFs, electromagnetivity. And hi, Kaylee Moore. You're a special girl to me. And so these 6 invaders get into our body in different ways. You'd be shocked at how many different ways we can get them. I don't know why we are, but we are. And by the way, be sort of clinical on this. You know, don't go, oh, I couldn't have worms, yuck. You know, you need to be clinical when you're talking about your body and body parts. That's how we nurses, you know, we're sort of detached. Do I like to think that I have a tapeworm in me? No, but you know what? I don't like to think that I'm not ready to go to heaven yet on the next boat. I'm wanting to go influence more lives and get more rewards for heaven and help more people. And while I'm here, I'd like to feel good. So back to my story 18 months ago, and I'm going to go quickly. I found out that I had parasites. Now, just recently, okay, so you know I lost weight, not by trying, because I had been trying for years, but I did two things. My nurse practitioner gave me herbs to start killing the parasites and to balance my hormones. Without me even knowing it, I was dropping about 2 pounds a month very slowly, didn't even know it until my skirt fell off one day. When I ran to the scale and found out I dropped 10 pounds and didn't even know it because I had just given up trying. I hadn't given up eating healthy, but I had given up trying. So without going on a diet and exercising, I dropped 35 pounds by cleansing parasites. And I began a study, I mean like book, tons of books, tons and lots of questions to my nurse practitioner who's taught me a lot, Evelyn Hammond. I have a naturopathic doctor also, and she gives me my lymph massage. She's taught me a lot, and I try to learn as much as I can from people who are educated beyond my level. So here I am tonight, and I'm talking about parasites, fungus, and mold, and how we get them. How do we get them? We get them from food, animals, toilet seats. I found out that hookworms can hang off of a toilet seat. I actually bought myself some toilet seat covers so that when I take a trip, I can put a clean cover on the toilet. I am very committed to figuring out a way to take care of these parasites. And because they do so much damage to our body. They can actually make your eyes swell. You get them in your eyes. They go into every organ. Talking about food, last week I had gotten a beautiful bunch of leaf lettuce, and I rinsed it. I washed it all in very fast cold water, dried it all, put it in a bowl. And so as I'm eating that night, we always eat fresh greens with every cooked meal that we eat because you need the living food. So I'm eating this, I'm taking this greens, and I didn't even put that night I didn't put any dressing on it. When we eat our pizza, we always have a big bowl of greens on the side, and we just eat a healthy pepperoni pizza that I make. We just put in the greens as we're going because the living enzymes in the greens help you digest your food. I have a salad, or if I have Mexican, I have pico and greens and avocado. I never have a meal without some living food. I guess I should say once in a while I'll have some buckwheat cereal, and maybe I'll have raw nuts. That'd be my living. But I try to have living food every time I eat. And I was taught this principle by Hallelujah Acres. And so I'm picking up this piece of lettuce and I'm looking at it, and here is a worm, a tan, living. He lifts up and he was about, I want to say, probably 1/4 inch long. And I couldn't believe it after I'd done all that cleaning of that lettuce. And thank God I saw it before it went in my mouth. I didn't say a word to my husband because why ruin his, meal. And hello, Myra, my beautiful favorite friend. Oh, I miss you, lady from Hammond. And so you can get it from food, sushi, fish, meat that's rare. If you're cutting raw meat and you cut yourself, you can get it that way. You can get it from animals. I'm always amazed that we don't realize we kiss our dogs. People sleep with their dogs. Their dog licks them. You know where a dog licks. So all you have to say to yourself is be clinical. If you have a dog and you're deworming him, you need to deworm yourself. And every single person alive today should do a parasite cleanse minimum once a year. And if you have kids, dogs, animals, you go outside the country, you eat any of the suspect foods, you swim in a lake, all of those things, and I can go on. I'm not going to give you the whole list because I've only got about 45 minutes. And so you are at risk. And here's the sad part. These things get in us and they live for years. They can live for 20, 30, 40 years. They can grow 6 feet long. I know you won't believe me. I am going to put a picture on my Facebook page, so you will believe me. And so I promise you, now that I've lost almost 40 pounds, and that's my big problem now, is my clothes are so loose. And I'm trying to find clothes so that I can look good. But now that I've lost all this weight, I ate sourdough bread, I ate my almond flour cookies. The only thing I changed in my diet was corn. I gave up all corn. So I found tortillas and I found chips and I found all my Mexican food without corn, because corn causes more fungus in your body. Corn is genetically modified. You want to get rid of it. And you know what? I used to love sweet corn. Back in the 50s, we had a thing that was called Queen. It was the Queen white sweet corn. And it was the tiny little kernels, and it was white, and it was so sweet. And it was really good. Now it's evolved into they're bigger, they're yellow. But genetically modified means that all the corn is grown from a chemically changed corn kernel. So you don't want to eat it. It's not good for you. And it really is bad for the parasites and all the other creatures. So back to these invaders. I'm not going to talk about Lyme tonight, but you may need to do a Lyme detox. I'm not going to talk about every invader. I'm going to mostly talk about parasites and mold and how they get together in your body. And I am going to explain that. I recently was tested. I had an ultrasound. Try to stay away from radiation, tests, but I had an ultrasound of my stomach, and I had some pain, and that's why I went. I don't want to go to doctors if I don't have to, and I don't want to be exposed to things, and I don't want the vaccine pushed on me, etc. And so I had an ultrasound, and believe it or not, my gallbladder's in perfect condition. However, I have 2 cysts on my liver, probably parasitic cysts. And I'm going to tell you, those are formed. Here's what happens. Parasites get in your body, okay, and they lay eggs. They say, my books that I've read, that the average tapeworm lays 50,000 eggs a day. And, okay, so yes, we have parasites, and there are many different kinds with many names, and they come from many places. Like your food that you get in Mexico, like right here in Stockton. I looked the other day, I was washing my tomatoes. They were from Mexico. All your foods that you have need to be washed. And, I hate to say this, until I found I had parasites, I was not very good at washing my vegetables. The Parasites book wants you to wash them in Clorox. I'm not going to do that, but I do wash them in apple cider vinegar or lemon water. And I try to buy all organic, which does help. And so these parasites lay eggs in an effort for your body to protect itself. Your body puts a film around those eggs, okay? And by the way, they like to find the fungus in your body if you have some, and most people do. I've taken several people to Evelyn, my nurse, and gotten scanned. Rarely is a person there without a little bit of fungus. And some people have tremendous amount of mold in their body, which is very dangerous. Mold's a living thing. Think of the mold that grows on cheese. Mold and fungus and parasites, they're all living. And they harvest and they eat. And when they eat, they also excrete. We forget about that. Hello, Joe Junkins. And so so you've got this little nest of eggs. Our body puts a film around it, forming a cyst. Call it a granuloma, call it a tumor. It's all the same thing. Then those eggs rot. So they got that bad contaminated material in there. Many times it doesn't show up for years. In some cases, it'll show up and people will actually have it biopsied. They'll put a needle into it and they'll take it out and they'll say it's not cancer. They don't test it for parasites. They don't test it for fungus or mold. Once in a great while. But most of the time, it's only tested for malignancy. And so also, by the way, putting a needle into a growth like that will cause it to spread. So I believe the 2 parasitic cysts on my liver, I believe they're precancerous. I believe that parasitic cysts, I believe that they go eventually to cancer. And of course, people who eat sugar and have a bad history, genetics, all of that contributes. It's just like with the COVID. All of us have a genetic past, okay, but you can change your genes with food, with juicing, fresh vegetable juice, barley greens, getting off sugar. So but all of us have also have a history. Dr. Streeter used to say, he'd say, Carol, your body holds a grudge. So I was really bad till I was 45. In fact, I just ate everything. I was pepperoni pizza, Dairy Queen, peanut butter parfait, double the fudge and double the nuts. I was a very out of balance, extreme person, and I love food. I'm a foodie. And so at 45, I radically changed my diet, which I believe is one reason I'm still functioning like I am. And then 10, 15 years ago, I learned how to start cooking, baking without sugar, learned how to make desserts with monk fruit and a small amount of maple syrup. And now I've even given that up. I'm just on monk fruit or stevia, or as a little bit of xylitol. And I learned how to do that. I started learning how to make the bread without the yeast and without the wheat. And so I've just refined my diet over that 25 years. And so these parasites will grow depending on the person's diet, depending on their body type, depending on how much you're exposed. Chemicals, pesticides, crop dusting, fossil fuels. I meet people every day that work in the trucking industry, and they're full of all kinds of chemicals. And so so then the long-term effects, you can have a cyst. And by the way, these parasites they're microscopic. They're usually in egg form. They can be under your fingernail. It could be, for example, nurses, all medical people are very high risk because we're exposed to all of the fluids, all the bodily fluids, and all the hi Leanne Lopez, hi Vicky Britt. I see all kinds of good folks out there. And so we are exposed to, medical people are very high risk. I've had blood splashed on me. I've had bile splashed on me. I've cleaned up vomit. I've cleaned up stool. 50 years of it. My brother was in a nursing home and I took care of him. My aunt had MRSA. I took care of her. I'm surprised I didn't get MRSA, which is a very serious bacterial resistant bacteria. And so, hi Marlena. And so, hi Tammy Proctor. And so these invaders get in and they get comfortable. Now, my husband has a sense of humor, which I'm thankful for. When we first got diagnosed, he goes, our parasites are superior. We have been feeding them organic for 20 years. Then he said, when he found out he had 7 funguses in him, he goes, I'm a fungi. You get it? Fungi, corny. And so we have these invaders in our bodies. And based on what we do to our body, I actually remember once in a while a friend or a doctor telling me about a parasite cleanse, but I didn't ever pick up on it. I did do a lot of healthy eating. I did do a lot on my bar. I did other things I think that kept me going and maintained me. But I was very sick when I went 18 months ago to the nurse to get the biomeridian scan. So the long-term effect, is that they develop cysts, which can develop into tumors. They eat and then they excrete. And all of that waste that goes into the body, it's a metabolic waste from the parasites. And I know it sounds weird, but they have a mouth. They're eating your nutrition. And why some of us, and I was always hungry, so was my husband. I wasn't hungry in the morning, but I was always hungry at night. And my husband would eat me out of house and home, and he was still skinny. And we used to joke and say, oh, he has a tapeworm, or he's got a hollow leg. Well, he really does have tapeworms. And because he served in Korea and Japan, and he was on the ground in Vietnam, but he didn't fight in the war. He was in supply, thank the Lord. But he was exposed to a lot of different things. Plus, he's hyper-vaccinated. And so these invaders, then they eat your magnesium, your selenium, your iodine, all your minerals. And so then you become mineral deficient and you don't know it. Well, that also puts your organs at risk. Why do we have thinning of the bones so bad in America? Part of it's parasites. I've had 2 fractures as an adult. I'm sure it's because my bones are thin because the parasites have been eating my magnesium for 30 years. And so, and I tested mineral deficient. Another test that they don't run very often, where you almost have to ask for a D3 to be run. If you ask for a magnesium to be run, they look at you like, well, we don't know if insurance will pay for it. And so a lot of your minerals are being destroyed, eaten, and that's why you crave certain things. You crave sugar a lot because the parasites love sugar. That's what they live on. They live on sugar, carbs, bread, pasta, anything doughy. That's what they love. Oh my goodness, this is like old home week. Rachel Turner, Kathy Wilkie. Oh my goodness. Hi guys, I love you. And so, and I think I think the tutors are there too. So I got the tutor home bunch. So the parasite metabolic waste and toxic substances can serve as irritants to the central nervous system. Some of you have anxiety or you have panicky feelings. Those can all be caused by the metabolic waste coming from these parasites. And restlessness, anxiety, insomnia are the result of systemic parasite infections. I believe with all my heart, I've had them for years. I know that I got one in Israel because I came home and couldn't sleep anymore. I've had trouble with insomnia since I was like 35. I mean, bad insomnia. And certain nights are worse. Now I'm a lot better right now. I'm much better. And I will get a 5-hour block, which I wasn't getting. I would toss and turn. You know, I'd wake up every 2 to 3 hours and toss and turn. And now I have to go to the bathroom. And so, but you know, I'm not disheartened because I know what's going on in my body. And I'm not disheartened because I have a naturopathic doctor, a naturopathic nurse. I can get saunas for $30. I can get a 30-minute sauna for $30 here in Missouri. I'm in the Bible Belt with holistic medicine is very rampant here because our laws are more lenient. And so I am not I'm not depressed or discouraged. I am working very diligently on learning more and taking more herbs and doing more cleanses and stuff. So what happens, kidney stones, for example, are rampant in America. And people who just don't get it, okay? Leading cause of kidney stones is lack of magnesium and too much dairy. And lack of magnesium is probably because the parasites are eating it. If you don't have parasites, then you've probably got one of the other invaders. But most people, in the last 6 weeks, I've had people in there, 24 parasites, 14 parasites, 8 parasites. I mean, you wouldn't believe how many people have them and have no idea that they have them. And so there is this problem with reproductive issues even. They can get into the ovaries. These parasites can get into the brains. I'm being treated right now. I have one in my bladder. And you say, how do I know? Well, I had a biomeridian scan March 5th. And the great thing about this scan, it's only $50. It actually names the parasite. So you can look at where you got it. Did you get it from what country? My husband had parasite in him that it came from Asia. That's where he was at. He was in Korea. You can actually name your parasites. Isn't that exciting? Maybe we should make them pets and call them our pet worms. Oh, I have to laugh or I'll start crying because it's just so hard to believe. And you know, minerals aren't discussed hardly at all by any doctors. We're talking about copper. We're talking about magnesium, selenium, iodine. And by the way, magnesium, you know, if you're taking it and you don't see any difference in your muscle relaxing, well, you need a higher dose. Also, there is a difference in the type of magnesium. There's 8 kinds of magnesium and they all do different things and they all work on different people. And I know that's really hard to explain and confusing. Someone's on here asking biomeridian scan. It's a scan where they take a probe and they go up and down your fingers on your nerves, sort of on the order of acupuncture, and it's hooked up to a computer, and that computer reads your nerves. Does your foot, your right hand, and your right foot. And my nurse has been doing this for 25 years. She is remarkable. She's very brilliant in fact prescribing, and she only gives natural things, no drugs. And they're called different things. Sometimes they're called a life force scan. They're expensive in other states. I haven't found them very cheap. The cheapest I've ever found them is $100 and often it's just a nutritionist. I'm not putting that down, but I think it matters if it's an RN or a doctor that's doing the scanning, and they're as expensive as $1,000. I think some people in California, San Jose, paid $250 for a scan, and so there are different ways to find these things. Also, I'm going to leave a website where you can actually you can stick your blood. You can send a blood, saliva, urine, and stool and be tested. It's about $250. But there are some labs in America that will test you. If you go to your doctor, he may say, I'll test you for 2 worms, you know, the most common hookworm and pinworm. Or may not even do it. And again, the doctors this is not part of their training. They haven't done it. They just don't have the education for it. And it's just not in their It's not in their book of diagnoses. Let me give you a couple case histories. I actually, I got to read this to you. There's a client that I've been dealing with, and I had told her about scanning. They found a scan up in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I think it was 200. But here's the good part. The lady had been having terrible female problems, and like bad cycles, heavy bleeding, infertility, and she was tested, and she actually had parasites in her reproductive organs causing these problems. And if you go to the doctor, he'll give you a pill, the birth control pill. And by the way, when you have like I have these cysts on my liver, and I have some issues. My cholesterol went up to 250. I don't even eat. I rarely eat red meat. I don't eat fried foods. I don't drink pop. I don't eat. I do eat Amish butter. I don't eat pasteurized dairy. I don't eat any dairy. I will have a small amount of goat cheese. Why would my cholesterol be 250? Because of the cysts on my liver. And so I'm still paying for my 45 years of being bad with a fatty liver. And I'm going after those parasites. Now, what happens when you kill them and they're in a little cyst? The cyst just sort of deflates. Listen to this. A teacher came into her second grade class, and all of a sudden, first day of school, she walks in and she falls down in front of the class having a seizure. Of course, all these kids are freaking out. They're 7 years old. So they take her, they ship her to the hospital. They run her through all the tests, can't find anything. They finally send her to a specialist who's very good at finding the weird things. Tapeworm in the brain caused the seizure. I believe with all my heart when a lot of these young kids have seizures and they go to the ER and the ER says, well, the test was normal, and they give them medicine and they send them home. I don't know how many of you have gone to the ER or gone to a doctor. Well, and your bloods don't look that bad. There's really nothing wrong. Here's an antidepressant. Here's an anti-anxiety. Here's some pain pills. There's a lot of things people cannot figure out what is going on in my body. Oh, good night. Ginny Vincent, hello from Australia. That's great. Ginny used to help me with my brother who was paralyzed from MS. Bringing up MS and Lou Gehrig's, I have several friends who've been re-diagnosed. One was told they had Lou Gehrig's and it's actually Lyme disease. Another person was told they had MS and it was actually Lyme disease. So going back to my case histories, a patient went to ER. I just heard this one last week. This lady called me. They took blood, and after they took the needle out, a worm crawled out of the hole that they had stuck her for blood. And of course they were like, what? And so these worms are real. They're parasites. Parasite's a nicer word if that helps you. They're all around us. You can get them anywhere. It'd just be good to just say, well, God made me out of dust. In fact, in Psalm 103, he says, he remembers my frame is dust. I have a little talk I give on God knows that we're all dust balls. We're going to go to ashes, from dust to dust. So we're from the dirt. So naturally, it makes sense that we could have worms. It's not weird. And by the way, if you're a planter like I am, a gardener, and you got your hands in the dirt, there's microscopic parasites in there. And there's another way you can get them. And so my naturopathic nurse has passed 22 tapeworms in 2 years. I have a picture of one that's 6 feet long. And I said, send it to me. And she said, I don't show this to very many people because people won't believe me. And we know there's a lot of skeptics out there. We know there's skeptics. And I say this to people. Last year in America, 250,000 people died in hospitals due to accidents. That's the average. But we don't get skeptical about, we're not skeptical about going to certain doctors. And I'm not saying there's a lot of good doctors out there, but they're part of a broken system. And so they're not going to dig to find a reason on why you've got acne at age 70, which I shouldn't have. And by the way, acne is one of the allergies, asthma, all stomach problems. Those can all find their root in parasites. And so I didn't even list all of them, but I'm going to read you now from this one book. And by the way, there's a parasite. You can take a quiz. Do you have parasites? And adults and kids are a little bit different. Granulomas are tumor-like masses that encase destroyed larvae or parasitic eggs. They develop most often in the colon or rectal walls, but also could be found in the lungs, liver, peritoneum, and uterus. I think a lot of ovarian cysts are probably parasitic. I know for a fact my husband had a fungal cyst in his lung, and it popped, and it had to be removed. And the doctor came out of the operating room, Dr. Paralero at Mayo Clinic in 2004, #1 lung doctor in the world at that time. He had his hand like this, and he said, Carol, no, he said, Mrs. Tudor, I've only seen this many of what your husband has in my whole practice. He was 65. And he said it was a fungal cyst. And the nurse practitioner that worked for Dr. Paralero said he never goes to the lab to look at the frozen section biopsy, but he went to the lab to look at Richard's tissue because he said it was so close to cancer, I had to make sure it wasn't cancer. So fungus can look like cancer. Parasitic cysts can look like cancer. I believe they turn into cancer. Then there's nervousness, I think I explained, because of the metabolic waste. Sleep disturbances are huge. Teeth grinding. My husband had no idea. He was very gently grinding his teeth because we saw that his teeth had been ground down. Chronic fatigue, immune dysfunction. These parasites, they destroy cells. I'm reading from my book on Guess What Came to Dinner. I think that's so funny. They destroy cells in the body faster than the cells can be regenerated, thereby creating an imbalance that results in ulceration, perforation, and by the way, severe anemia. A lot of people are anemic and the doctors go, we don't know why, and they just give you iron or they give you blood. But anemia, remember, these parasites, these invaders are eating your nutrition. And that's why some people are so hungry all the time. Some people with parasites can't lose weight because the parasites are holding on to everything. They don't want to let go of anything because they know your body knows it's eating. Your body knows that the parasites are eating everything, and so your body won't let go. And as soon as I started killing my parasites, my body let go of fat and fluid in the lymph system. They produce toxic substances that are harmful to the body. In cases of chronic infection, the body's immune response can be pushed into overdrive, producing elevated levels of white blood cells. These cause tissue damage that result in pain and inflammation. The presence of parasites irritates the tissues of the body, inducing an inflammatory reaction in me. The presence of parasites invade the body, and they penetrate the skin, and they can actually be in the skin. They can go into your rectum. Rectal itching is a symptom of those also. Some parasites invade the body by penetrating the skin, producing dermatitis, eczema. During their developmental stage, other parasites perforate and damage the intestinal lining. The size and weight of the parasite cysts, particularly if they're located in the brain, the spinal cord, the eye, the heart, or the bones, produce pressure effects. Okay, so your organs can feel pressured. And obstruction, particularly of the intestine and pancreatic and bile ducts, can occur. My nurse practitioner told me that a parasite can hang off your bile duct. Your bile duct is the little tube that attaches the gallbladder and the liver. It can hang there for 30 years and suck bile. I would guess most gallbladder problems. Okay, yes, we know high-fat diet in Americans, but how come everybody doesn't lose their gallbladder? Some people have no trouble with their gallbladders. Some people, and I would guess that along with parasites and a high-fat diet, it's the combination. The presence of a parasite depresses the immune system functioning while the presence of parasites depresses immune system functioning while activating the immune response. This eventually leads to immune system exhaustion. And when your immune system is exhausted, then it can't fight other things. Believe it or not, I've had several of my students in their 40s and 50s die of cancer. They took all the chemo they could take. They took radiation chemo. They had surgery. And they were like, I had one that was 45, 2 or 3 of them that were 50. And I wonder if their tumors were parasitic instead of cancer, number 1. Number 2, I know one of them had heart disease after the chemo. And number 3, I wonder how much, by the way, chemo does not kill parasites. It doesn't destroy them. And so people don't know that. Chemo destroys bad cells and healthy cells, bad cells and good cells. And that's why it's so hard damaging to the body. So these I'm not gonna say every case of bad health is blamed on parasites, but I'm gonna say that 80% of sickness goes back to these 6 invaders. Next week, EMFs. I'm going to talk about radiation. I'm going to talk about what you can do to protect yourself. We are having the 5G towers are coming in, and that's another form of an invader that affects us, and it does affect your nervous system. This book gives a list of all the different parasites, what they do, where they're from, the water and food connection, where you get them. You know, I used to eat sushi. I don't do it anymore. And I got it made fresh by a Japanese chef in California. But it's still, you're at high risk if you eat any raw fish. You're at high risk if you eat rare meat. You're at high risk for several things. Dog heartworm can be transmitted to humans by mosquitoes. Every blood-sucking insect can give you a parasite. So here's the thing, dog heartworm is fatal to dogs, but it's not fatal to humans, but it still makes problems. And so you can maybe be able to go online, I don't know, and take a test. I took a test. I took a little quiz to see, do I have parasites? Do I have the symptoms? I do have the symptoms. And of course, I didn't know shortness of breath was one, but I had parasites in my lungs. I have a fungus in my lungs. I have a ringworm fungus in my lung. How did I get that? Well, I went to rodeos, and it was from a horse. It's a horse ringworm. I looked it up. And fortunately, because my nurse has a scan that tells you the names of these things, I could, name of the book, Denise Parker. The name of the book is Guess What Came to Dinner by Anne Louise Gittleman. So I want to get moving here because I want to tell you what to do about a cleanse. But example, have you been to Mexico, Africa, Israel, China, Russia, Asia, Europe, or Central or South America? Hawaii, Caribbean, Bahamas. We went on to Hawaii on our honeymoon, and we swam in Waikiki water, Hawaiian ocean water. Do you frequently swim in freshwater lab streams or ponds? Did you serve overseas in the military? Have you had intestinal problems, night sweats, or elevated white blood count since traveling? Water is a big issue. And if you happen to go swimming and by accident drink some, yes. I did that in Lake Michigan. There's definitely anything with the gut, diarrhea, constipation, both, irritable bowel, ulcerative colitis. I'd say those are, from what I'm reading, caused by parasites. Food, do you regularly eat unpeeled raw fruits and raw vegetables and salads? You need to clean them. You need to get organic if you can. If you can't, peel them. Sushi, all kinds of different salad bars are high risk. Hate to tell you that, but because of course the food's out, flies can sit in flies carry eggs. And so, and I'm not trying to get you paranoid because I still go out to eat. But at home, I'm going to live as clean as I can. I'm going to clean my house extra clean. I'm going to use certain cleaners in my bathroom. I'm going to do, they say, like when you use a cutting board, don't use the same cutting board for chicken, fish, and meat as you do for vegetables. So there's a lot to learn about it. Your pets, of course, keeping them clean and keeping them dewormed. Workplace, if you work in a clinic, do you work in a pet shop? Do you work in a zoo? Do you work around animals? Do you work in a daycare? It's very high risk. And so there's a test you can take to ask what, And by the way, dark circles around the eyes, acne, allergies, asthma, just go through the list. I've had several people with neurological problems that turned out to be one of the 5 invaders. Now let's talk about this. What you want to do for a cleanse is this. You want to, first of all, you want to cleanse the GI tract. Okay, and you do that by choosing herbs that will kill. There's also foods that will kill. For example, they don't like pumpkin seeds. They don't like dandelion greens. They hate pomegranate. They hate garlic. They hate turmeric. There's wormwood tea you can drink. Now, that'll really kill some off. But the first thing to do is pick your herbs. You got to have a medicine of some kind. Those of you that are interested, I will private message you what my nurse has a $50 protocol. I think it's $51. It's 3 bottles. This would be the beginning of when you would kill your parasites. And bottle number 1 is black walnut. And I can send you that. If you private message me, I'll send you her protocol and where you can buy it. And that's just $50. There's also a thing called Mimosa Paducah, which is a gentler cleanser. And, oh, excuse me. And there's also Scram, which you can buy at Swanson's Vitamins. It's $33. Scram means get out. Then you need a binder. Okay, so number 1, you want to choose your herb. Okay, number 2, you want a binder. Binder is something. Okay, here's the issue with this, and this is why this is important. When you kill off parasites and they die inside you, and you're constipated, then they are sitting in there and they're going to make you feel awful. You've got to make sure you have a bowel movement. The binder, which is diatomaceous earth or like bee flax, or some people use psyllium. It's not my favorite. But that's what the medical world prescribes. But diatomaceous earth, it's easy. It's organic dirt, and I put it in water and just swallow it. But that binder will bind to these dead parasites and help you get rid of it. The other thing you got to have is a mild laxative if you're not moving your bowels. I noticed that Evelyn asks every patient that comes in there, how many bowel movements do you have? Do you have a good one every day? Yes or no? How many days do you go without having one? So you do not want to cleanse your body of parasites and have dead parasites in you making you feel sick. And you could feel a little weak, or you may feel a little like you've got a mild case of the flu while you're cleansing. Sometimes you don't feel that way at all. So that's the first thing. First, you're going to pick out your herbs. Second, you're going to get a binder so that you can take a binder. Third, you may need a mild laxative. I use magnesium as a laxative. That's what my husband and I use, because magnesium, your citrate, your different, not the glycinate, but the magnesium will help you have a good bowel movement. Lots and lots of water while you're cleansing. If your diet's not clean, you need to eliminate sugar and bread and wheat, gluten, and during the cleanse, especially. Well, I'm off all that anyway, but that's when you want to be off that kind of stuff. So 1, cleanse the GI tract, modify the diet, choose your substance that you want to eliminate parasites. Okay, then and your cleanse may last a week, it may last 10 days, it may last 2 weeks. You can choose. Don't do it when you're on vacation. That goes without saying. We pick and choose when we're going to do it, because we want to be where we're not involved in something like teaching an extra class or something like that. My husband did the black walnut protocol, and he went to work and did fine. And he did 3 bottles in 8 weeks of the protocol. It was Parasite 1, Parasite 2, Parasite 3, and you have to weaken, and then kill them, because they're very hard to get rid of. And he did that, and we're still going to have to start another one because we still have parasites. So 1, cleanse the GI tract, modify the diet, choose the substance, your herbs that you're going to eliminate. Now, some of you might want to do a medication. There are medications out there. I don't know what they are. I know some of them, but I'm not prescribing those, but doctors will sometimes prescribe them. If you have a doctor that works with you, and he'll give you a prescription for a dewormer, or there are some out there. The problem is they only work on the ones, that medicine only works on specific parasites. And if you don't know what you've got, then you're sort of stuck. Now, Scram, there's a couple of those. Mimosa Paducah, it will work on almost all worms. And so I will be leaving you links on my page. I'm looking at the clock to see what time it is. I will be leaving you links on my page so that you'll know where to go. But my husband and I are going to do a very simple. We're going to do the diatomaceous earth. We're going to do the black walnut. We're going to do wormwood tea, and it'll probably last about 10 days, and then we'll get off of it. And then you want to recolonize with friendly bacteria. You want to put in some probiotics, and then eliminate risk factors. I'm not saying you should, some missionaries, they're going to go to the field. They've just got to keep working on parasite cleanses. And why are some people sicker than others? Remember, it goes back to the immune system. when we're given this beautiful self-healing body, and it should fight off these invaders, but because we haven't fed it right and we haven't kept it healthy, we can't fight them off. So then we succumb to it. Now I'm determined to get rid of these 2 cysts on my liver. I really, really want that to happen. And so I will be doing some strenuous cleansing this next 6 months, and also building. And I choose to do my juicing. And by the way, you can shoot yourself a ginger shot. You get the fresh ginger and juice it, ginger and lemon. Make yourself a little shot. Take one of those every day. And by the way, you can freeze them like in a 4-ounce jar, and take it out and just drink a ginger shot every day. They hate ginger. The parasites don't like garlic. My husband eats raw garlic all the time. In fact, he'll eat it with every meal. I'm shocked that he hasn't killed more. But raw garlic, pomegranate seeds, papaya seeds, you grind them up and put them in things. They hate dandelion greens. They hate garlic. They hate pumpkin seeds. By the way, it's the raw pumpkin seeds you want. So that's how you do a cleanse. PM me if you want more information. I will leave a couple links, and I'll take a picture of the books and put it on my page. You can call me. I'm taking phone calls. My best time is Thursdays and Fridays, but I line them up on Mondays and Tuesdays. You can call me if you need to. But I would encourage you to do a parasite cleanse and or a dewormer of some sort. Both will help you feel a lot better. And I thank you for those of you that several people have just sent like $20 or $30 to my PayPal account for all the studying I do, for the books I read. I just sent for another book. I try to get my books used, of course, but so they'll contribute that to the ministry, and that really helps me. And I don't charge yet. I'm thinking about doing Zoom calls, because then I could see the person, and that helps me to see what they look like, their eyes, their skin, etc. But pray for me as I'm trying to figure out a way to reach more people. Number one. Number two, I'm trying to figure out a way to help enough people and put the time in and still bring in a little money. So thank you so much. And I'm looking at the clock. It's just about 55 minutes, and I'm going to stop now. Folks, the devil wants you sick. He does not want Christians healthy. He does not want you to be healthy. If you're healthy, you're going to be rejoicing. You're going to feel good. You're going to be passing the gospel out to other people and making sure people are, thank you. She goes, thanks, darling. Thank you, darling. The devil wants you not to take care of your temple. And if you recall, when Jesus was resurrected, he was tempted. Actually, during his ministry, he was tempted of the devil, remember, to change these stones into bread. The devil tempted him 3 times, and the first one was food. And the devil wants you sick. He wants these young women that want to have babies. He wants them infertile. I don't believe at all that our medical system is under the control of good people. We know who's in charge. We know the doctors. I'm not going to name all the political people, but we know who's in charge of our medical system. And it's a satanic warfare. We know that drugs and chemicals and vaccinations and all the different things that are being dealt out, we know that they're dangerous to the temple. And the body says, what? Know ye not? The Bible says, what? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you, which ye have of God. You're not your own. You're bought with a price. Jesus lives in here. So when I treat him right and I cleanse out the bad and I feed him healthy, I'm taking care of my temple. If I don't have a temple, I don't have a ministry. I can't help my husband. I want to take care of my husband. I want my husband's having a big influence on these troubled boys here at Agape. And I want him to continue having an influence. I want him to continue being able to teach the Bible. And because of that, I got to stay healthy and take care of him and keep him going. Well, then I have to yield myself to the Holy Ghost to eat right and ask the Lord to focus me, ask the Lord to help me eat the right things and take care of myself. And too many years, we Christians have neglected our temples. And it's not just us, but especially, that's who I'm speaking to. We need to take care of our temples. And again, no temple, no ministry. And like I said, I'm not ready. I got 2 grandkids that I want to influence. I got people around me that I want to invest in the next generation. I want to keep going. And so do you. So the devil wants you sick, but God wants you healthy. Thank you so much for listening. God bless you. And give me a text or a private message if you need my help. Bye-bye. Love y'all.